I'm not going to give you a long talk today because really Christmas, New Year isn't the time to prattle on about all the political nonsense that goes on and the latest amount of propaganda that's dished at you from all sides. I remember I've said so many times before that when it comes to what you think is alternative media, why would you think that the all-seeing eye didn't notice that little chink in the armour where someone else can get something through? Of course they do. And big money is into everything to do with propaganda, as you well know, because that's what we live through our whole lives. But this is a time of year where you're supposed to look at the last year and all years beforehand for that matter, because just think back on the years you've lived and see the changes each year. And you'll see the strategy of conditioning to the next level, the next level, the next level. It goes on and on and on incessantly. And then, as I said before, you realize you're living through a big business plan. And that's exactly what it is. It's a huge business plan. And just like any other massive business, they plan all their investments and what they're going to reap for rewards for themselves at the top many years in advance of pulling it all off. It takes time, especially when you're dealing with people, to get them to work for you for nothing and do it all. If they want to have an army out there of whatever you want to call them, who to get your man in or woman in or whatever it happens to be in or party in. Or, I mentioned a while ago about the two guys they brought in to the United Nations, to the World Health Organization, who were given masses of money and staff to come up with an idea and a way to promote it, to get people to stop smoking. And it was they would, of course, naturally go for the children at school until the children, if they saw someone lighting a cigarette across the other side of the street, they start coughing immediately, like a Pavlovian fit. The idea being to make the smoker feel ashamed. And so they used shame to try and get folk to stop, to be ashamed of themselves like a leper. And then they tried the same thing with obese people, using the same two guys at the World Health Organization. They haven't given up, and by the way, they're still using that yet. And it's got a lot more days to come on using it, in fact, on the public. But they said this technique works on everybody. And this technique can be used in any area of human behavior. What do you really like being tinkered with all the time when you don't know it? If you don't mind, then I wish there was another planet that the ones who do mind could go off and live on, because it's just incredible to me when so many people say, "Well, I know they're monitoring me, they're doing this to me, they're doing," but I don't mind. Well, you understand. The reason they abolished most of your history is that peasants and people across the planet would have big rebellions at times because they had no rights whatsoever. They had no privacy at all. They were owned, they were serfs, they were chattel, as they say. And when the big boys wanted to cull them back, they simply starved them to death by taking all the food off them. That was history. That's why they eradicate history today. If you haven't noticed what real history really is, it's not about, let's see history through someone who was a paraplegic in the 1500s. It wasn't through their eyes. No, real history was about the totality of all people suffering for the benefit of a few. We're constantly being used like this, but when you get a society where they don't mind being used, and they don't mind when they're told eventually, here, take euthanasia pill and do the right thing, old boy, because you might be a burden on society. And then they'll get the rest of society around you, even your relatives maybe, to start to, you come on, play the game, do the right thing, and shame you into doing it. You understand, you're trained like any domesticated animal. And even a domesticated animal has instincts left in them to try and stay alive. People have no idea, none, of the daily powers that infiltrate into their life and pick apart their personalities and pick apart the changes in their personalities, and pick apart the reasons for why they have the little changes in their personalities for that day or that week or whatever it happens to be. And then use all this information against them. Maybe not right away, but sometimes they do it right away, and they'll definitely do it down the road. They have no idea. But they don't mind, do they? They don't mind. Tyrants of the planet have been hoping and dreaming of this. They could never in their wildest dreams imagine having total control over the peasantry. And I don't care if you think you have your own house. You own nothing. If you pay taxes on something, you don't own it. You don't. You rent it. If you're a week or 2 weeks away from the street with the money in the bank, you're not middle class. Just stop kidding yourself, for God's sake. When governments can just simply pass a law and say, you're all going to war tomorrow, give us all your young. You're free. And then they'll lie about why they send you all to war. And it's so simple, isn't it, the propaganda they give you? Always. So simple. And they give you brass bands at the end of it, a few bits of tin to pin in your chest. If you come back, that is. I mean, we all know this. We all know these things. But no one wants to talk about it, or it's forbidden to speak about it, or even ask about it. Why? What's going on here? It's sad, isn't it? And as time goes on, they tell you you're freer and freer and freer. And a lot of folk believe this. That's the power of conditioning. Because that's all we get nowadays is propaganda. And that's all you've had most of your life. In fact, your behavior is simply an outcome of propaganda. All your modern behavior is given to you through again, the revolution of the cultural revolution, the 60s, 70s, and so on. Always getting upgraded by those who are the perfectionists of the system on behalf of their masters. That's how it is. And I think I should really say, though, that my thoughts are with so many people who are really struggling in 1,000 million ways right now to get by. I've got folk living in cars in touch with me from the States and different places and across the world. People who it really is, everybody's struggling. At a time when there's never been so many cheap toys, as I say, cheap toys. I mean, some people struggle really way above the level that I live at, and they've got all the different toys, but they think they're poor. If they don't have about 500 of the latest apps and everything else, they're poor. I don't have any apps and anything. I don't have cell phones, nothing like that. So, technically speaking, in some way, I guess it is relative, isn't it? The whole point of what poverty is, but I'm talking about real poverty, really. Those who are kicked out of their homes, those who are living in cars, those who, through various reasons, have lost their children, and you name it. Life is not smooth. And no one goes through life in some smooth, robotic, logical fashion. Not in these days. It doesn't happen. Everyone's got problems in some way or another. And you just hope you can get past the worst parts of it and survive and get on your feet again to some extent. And don't shoot for too high a moon, basically. That's what life is. Because life consists of the few folk you meet in life that are really, really, there's a connection. A real connection. I don't mean like the guys do in their bars and their pubs, and it's all laughing and joking forever and ever and ever. If anything serious happens, you have to help anybody, they're off like a shot. I'm talking about real people who really are really human. And thank goodness, it's amazing they're still out there, isn't it? There's some decent people out there, and you meet them. And they're across the world too. And often they're pretty isolated themselves because they can't get folk to talk to. Because the whole world system, this world order is using the same propaganda methods, often the same sources of them too, to brainwash their citizens. And when you know things are not what you're being told that they are, because you have knowledge, real knowledge, not guessing at things, but real knowledge, then you can become awfully isolated and awfully lonely. And that's awful. It's terrible, that. And I've said so many times, you have to live inside your head at times, because it can be dangerous to say things in some countries. And it's going to be the same thing across the so-called free world as different laws are enforced gradually, or it's their policy to enforce them. They don't have to even make it a law until you can't see anything, or you're, that's where it's all going. And that's where it's meant to go. Scientific control of the mind on behalf of the masters of the world. Sad but true, isn't it? So my thoughts really are with so many folk, some who have died already this year, because it hits us all. And you never know when it's going to hit you, is another thing as well. You never know. Don't just fall out with people because of their little political spats, where it happens to be, or family spats, because you really don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, or to them, or to you. Because believe you me, you don't want the government stepping in, supposedly to help you. That's the last thing you need. That's the only thing that was true that Ronald Reagan ever said. The most frightened, scary thing that a citizen can hear is, we're from the government and we're here to help you. Because they'll take your life over. You don't want that. And folk, believe you me, are going to have to help each other more and more and more as we go through all the carbon taxes, the austerity measures, as you're brought into planned Agenda 21 poverty. And those commissars who are appointed to do it will be living awfully well. It's always the same in this world. And there'll be lots of henchmen. They'll give them nice little uniforms and little badges or whatever to enforce it and bash you on the head. There's never a shortage of henchmen in any country, at any time, down through history, up to the present. It'll continue to be so. And all they do is persecute their neighbours, their fellows. That's what the elite have always known, isn't it? You can always use one half of the population if you pay them to go off and fight or even kill the other half. And that's what was that famous line in Tammany Hall, and from the movie Gangs of New York, because it's so true. There's always a good segment of society that'll do what they're told and take a paycheck, even if it means persecuting or even killing their fellow man. Sad, isn't it? You don't get so much of that in Disney movies, do you? So anyway, that's all I want to say for this day, because it's a new year, and we're going to people really have to stick closer and closer together and work out preparations just to get through. As taxes increase, carbon taxes increase, and carbon taxes means everything that have to do with transportation, that's food, everything that you need will go up in prices. It's all passed on the consumer. And you'll have to really think about life and so on, and start to decide where you want to spend more time in reality or in fiction. And there's all kinds of traps out there. There's a lot of fiction pretending to be reality, and lots of fake characters out there pretending to be you, in a sense. You got to start thinking for yourselves. I keep saying that, and I hope that if anything else happens, and if I'm not here, that will stick in your minds. You got to think for you're unique. You have the brain. It's your brain. It's not someone else's. Hopefully, not yet. And you got to start using it, and you got to start deciding what you let into that mind and what you don't. What's wrong with you? This is the final battle. And for a lot of focus, I think it's already over, to be honest with you. And for the young, I've always said that from the beginning, I feel so sorry for them, because the techniques that are used in them are almost perfected. They're so efficient in the way they work on the mind. And literally, the people, when they get a problem given to them, they work like a computer, a pre-programmed computer, working on algorithms to come to the predestined answer. Humans are supposed to be incredibly wonderful, and they can arrive at so many different answers to different things. That's really what makes life so quite nice. And actually, at times, is I used to meet lots of eccentrics a long time ago, and characters we called them, when they didn't sit and watch television, when they came home from work until they went to bed, or playing the internet in a zombie state, getting someone else's propaganda stuck into them. They had all kinds of eccentrics, and that's where real knowledge came from. People who questioned things, who looked at things from different angles that you didn't even know they existed, these other angles. And here they are giving you information. And most of them are gone now, because technology has standardized the way people think to an incredible degree. And I really hope that you can tolerate all the things that are coming down the pike, that are planned. You know the big orders on a roll now, a faster roll, and you're going to see some amazing and not very pleasant changes awfully soon. And big marketing companies are being paid big money to brainwash you and to be a good citizen, for pro-carbon taxes and austerity and all that kind of stuff. So the big scientific elite can give good report cards into their masters, who own them completely. So stick with it, and remember, as I say, you are unique. That's awfully important. You really are. You really matter. See, every person matters. It's true. And for myself, from Ontario, Canada, I'm Alan Watts, and it's good night, and may your God or your gods go with you.